In a dawn unlike any history had ever witnessed, Mecca breathed in its light as it always had. Every stone whispered a story, and every passing breeze carried the fragrance of remembrance. Worshippers moved with quiet steps toward the Grand Mosque, their hearts suspended in prayer, their souls drifting between heaven and earth. But that dawn was not like any other. It carried a heavy silence, a weight that pressed upon the chest before it ever touched the air. At the gates of the sanctuary, men appeared in simple clothing, carrying coffins wrapped in white cloth. One worshiper murmured, "A bead? Who are these people?" Faces filled with confusion, yet the truth was far more terrifying. Death itself was hidden beneath the white fabric, waiting for the moment to turn everything upside down. Then, without warning, a shout tore through the air like
In Mecca, where the earth breathes light, and where blessings rise before the sun itself, people stood in the holiest place on earth, preparing for the dawn prayer. The call to prayer flowed above their heads like a cool breeze, and everything radiated tranquility. Except for that strange, unexplainable heaviness a few of them felt deep inside. No one knew that this dawn in particular would be recorded in history as the most terrifying morning of the past century. At one of the gates of the Grand Mosque, men approached carrying coffins. One of the bystanders whispered, "May God have mercy on them. Looks like they came to pray over their dead." No one suspected that the real death wasn't inside the coffins, but waiting inside them for the perfect moment to leap out. The Imam began the prayer. The opening takbir filled the air. But before the verses could rise, another voice split the silence. People turned in shock as weapons burst out from inside the coffins like snakes emerging from their dens. The sacred stillness transformed into a terrifying chaos. Screams rose, and the gunmen locked the massive doors with heavy chains. People cried out, children wailed, men muttered.
In a small mosque in Riyadh, Juhayman met a calm, soft-spoken young man, Abdullah el-Qahtani. El-Qahtani didn't speak much, but his silence attracted people more than speeches. He was well-mannered, humble, deeply immersed in books of hadith and visions of the end times. Juhayman drew close to him quickly, as if destiny itself was pushing the two toward each other. Through long nights of discussion, an idea began to sneak in, the idea that the world wasn't as it seemed, that there were signs and indications, and that the end of time was near. While the rest of the city slept, the two men exchanged talk about the awaited Mahdi, injustice, and the duty to correct the nation. No one imagined that these quiet conversations would grow into an entire movement, then into a catastrophe that would shake the Muslim world. Young men gathered around them, restless, searching for something greater than their ordinary lives. They admired Juhayman and al-Qahtani, saw them as reformers, even saviors. Little by little, the group formed. They prayed together, traveled together, read the same books, shared the same dreams and visions. Then came the moment that changed everything. Before the group, Abdullah el-Qahtani stood with a steady voice and declared, "I saw a vision, and others saw the same, and we all agreed that I am the Mahdi." The words fell on Juhayman like a spark igniting a forest. He did not hesitate. He did not doubt. He did not retreat. He responded, breath trembling with excitement, "Ya Juhayman, this is the sign. This is the moment we've been waiting for." That night, the most dangerous delusion the region had ever known was born.
After the first hours of the takeover, the Grand Mosque transformed into another world. A world that resembled nothing Mecca had ever known in its thousands of years. The courtyards, once filled with prayers and echoes of faith, now drowned in endless sounds, screams, whispers, trembling breaths. The sun was no longer a sun. Its light felt muted, slipping faintly over walls stripped of safety. By the third day, hunger struck the people for the first time. Food had run out, water was gone, and hostages searched for anything to ease their pain. An elderly woman whispered, her voice cracking, "My son, Wallah, we can't take it anymore. The thirst is killing us." A weary man replied, "Be patient. God is merciful." But divine mercy requires endurance, and fear devours endurance like fire devours dry grass. Outside, Saudi forces had fully encircled the Grand Mosque. Snipers climbed the surrounding rooftops, and the entire city asked the same question. How did this happen inside the house of God? From atop the minarets, Juhayman's men positioned themselves with their rifles. Everything had turned into a lopsided war. Every gunshot echoed through the hearts of millions. This was more than a battle. It was a test for a city that had always symbolized peace. One night, a gunman peeked through a tiny opening in a minaret. No one noticed him until he fired the first shot. After that, the battle erupted. A soldier below muttered under his breath, "Ya Sadr, where are they even coming from?" His voice was swallowed by the ringing of bullets. Few people knew this, but beneath the Grand Mosque lies a network of old corridors, maintenance routes, water storage spaces, and ventilation passages. Juhayman knew this, and he used it. He and his top men retreated into those tunnels.
The special forces stormed the tunnels. Darkness, smoke, shouts, the sharp scent of gunpowder. Juhayman's men retreated, one step, then another, until they found themselves surrounded from every direction. And among them stood Juhayman, the man who entered the Grand Mosque with grand visions, not the leader some believed was a savior, but an exhausted man, face pale, eyes hollow. A soldier stepped forward. "Raise your hands, it's over." Juhayman lifted his head, looked at the soldier with a long, distant gaze, and whispered, "This is God's will." He raised his hands, and with that, the battle that shook the heart of the Muslim world came to an end after 2 weeks of terror.
After 2 relentless weeks of gunfire, silence finally fell over Mecca. But not the kind of silence people knew. It was the silence of a desert before a furious sandstorm. Still, heavy, unnerving. The city looked exhausted, streets filled with soldiers, eyes of ordinary people searching for answers. Many stood at their doorsteps whispering, "Ma'kul, something like this happened inside the haram?"
He was frighteningly calm, as if he had surrendered to something bigger than himself. A guard entered and asked gently, "You want anything before we proceed with the final steps?" Juhayman lifted his head slowly and replied, "Just water, bus." His voice carried years of strain.
Just before sunrise, soldiers lined up in a wide courtyard. The prisoners were brought out one by one. Then came Juhayman, clothed in white, face pale, features carved by exhaustion and dust. He did not cry. He didn't beg for mercy. He looked up at the sky for a long, unbroken moment, as if trying to understand how everything had led him here. The officers stepped forward and read the sentence. Juhayman didn't move. A soldier whispered to his friend, "Ya Rajul, never thought I'd witness something like this." His friend replied quietly, "Dunya strange wallah. Nothing about this is easy." And when the sentence was carried out, a deep silence spread, the kind of silence that closes a chapter of an ancient book, a page.
Days later, the voices of the muezzins rose again. The haram was cleaned, its doors reopened, and people returned to pray where life had suddenly stopped. A mother held her child, looked at the sky, and cried. An old man bowed in sujood for a long time, crying silently, as if thanking God for surviving the storm. The city regained its soul, but inside it remained a wound, one that would not heal quickly. This wasn't just a battle, not just an armed takeover. It was a turning point. After it, the kingdom restructured the security of the whole.
The news reached the east and west. Every Muslim nation asked, how did this happen? How did illusion reach the holiest place on earth? Some countries held conferences. Some reevaluated mosque sermons. Others launched programs to confront extremist ideologies. To this day, the siege of the Haram remains one of the most powerful lessons in Islamic history about the danger of mixing faith with delusion. This is not the story of one man, not the story of one group, not a simple historical event.
And so the tale came to an end. But it did not end in the memory of the nation. Mecca, the sacred city, remains standing, unshaken. People learned that holiness alone does not protect against illusion, and the true strength is not carried in weapons, but in awareness, reason, and wisdom. The final voice in the story was a whisper from one of the worshippers. Ya Rab, don't let us ever live through a delusion like this again.